CJ Stroud reveals his early season injury, why the Ohio State Buckeyes cannot overlook the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and a few keys to victory. All that and more in this episode of Locked on Buckeyes.
You are Locked on Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked on Buckeyes for the Locked on Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Friday, November 5th in the year 2021, and this episode of Locked on Buckeyes is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. A big thank you to our friends at McDonald's for always being there. I'm loving it. This weekend's game, I am excited. I'm sure you're excited. Some people are overlooking the Cornhuskers. Some people have been waiting for this game all season long. Nebraska's record is 3-6, and many people anticipate and think this will be a cakewalk. One person on the Buckeyes football team that needs to keep focused and stay focused is the signal caller, C.J. Stroud. And in an interview on Thursday afternoon with Dave Revson from the Big Ten Network, their main studio host there, he revealed something that I believe is a reason why he is so confident right now. A few things he mentioned. One of them is an injury. Another one is some ways that he has stayed confident and has stayed steady throughout the entire game. Now, throughout the entire season. The injury, yes, that's probably not a confidence boost. But there are other things in part of his life that have helped him throughout the season, that have helped him play the way that he has. In an interview on Thursday afternoon, C.J. Stroud revealed that his injury that he suffered early in the season actually came, well, there was two. One in fall camp. Then there was also one that he suffered during the week one matchup against the Minnesota Golden Gophers. In fall camp, C.J. Stroud had a stressed rotator cuff. In week one against Minnesota, C.J. Stroud had a separated AC joint. And he opened up a little bit about this during his interview on Thursday. This happened during the Minnesota game. This is not an injury that will require off-season surgery, which is amazing. No in-season surgery, no off-season surgery. I think those are two positives for Stroud right now, because as his confidence boosts and goes up during the season, there's no recovery from or rehab from a surgery in the offseason. This injury is something that he is not 100% back from. But when you're injured, one thing that always happens to a lot of people is sometimes you get into your head. I can't say all, but I believe most people out there, you may have been hurt or injured at some point in your life while playing a sport, or maybe something that was not athletic. You just happened to fall and crumble and you fell and you had trouble getting up. We all know how life works. But CJ Stroud, with his injury, one thing we noticed is that, and it wasn't just the Minnesota game, it was also the Oregon game and the Akron game. We were all wondering what the injury was. One thing Ryan Day and the Ohio State coaching staff does, they don't let things like this get out at all. They want to control the narrative. If they could not let out an injury, they'll keep it in-house. I'm pretty sure there have been some players that don't believe the entire team is 100% vaccinated. They're still testing daily and testing, multiple times a week. I don't believe it's daily testing anymore. I believe it's multiple times a week. I am sure some of the players on the availability report that are not playing in that game or in that particular week, I'm sure there's been some positive tests and positive test for COVID. I'm sure that there have been. But you know what we don't know? We don't know who those players are, and I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm fine with it. I don't mind. I want to know things from a job and to inform you about things that are going on with the team, injuries-wise and things of that nature. But if I don't know about the whole COVID and cases and things like that, Me personally, not a big deal. Some of you, if it comes out, you'll want to know. I will relay that information in this same way. CJ Stroud also mentioned that he got a couple texts from Justin Fields, one going into the season, another one in the season. And I believe both of those before you start your first game in college at any level, but in this way in college, you want somebody to help you. You want somebody to speak some words of encouragement to you. You want somebody that'll be able there to assist you in that way. And CJ Stroud got that early in the season from Justin Fields. Talked about how the speed of the game does not change. It's all about your mindset, just all of those things that are minute details that quarterback speak, quarterback talk, things that they could talk about that Fields experienced and that Stroud would experience down the road, not at the point in time when Fields reached out to him before the season started. And those words, those things that Fields said were very, very beneficial. But there were also times in a football game or in a football practice, maybe a scrimmage, maybe something that's an interview, maybe film sessions, you're looking at things and you're trying to control everything. You want to control all of the things you can't control. And CJ Stroud said that he got some very good advice from family and friends, and it's all about you can only control the controllables, only control the controllables. The ones you can't control, let God handle. And I do believe that when we see Stroud on the field, there is that sense of he's going to control what he can control. Everything else, he's not going to try to dive into that part of the game to try to have his part in every single aspect of a football game. I do think that's one key why I say Justin Fields so much. Want to put him back in at QB1 for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I do think that's why CJ Stroud has played the way that he has throughout the entirety of this season. He knows he can only control the controllables. The things he can't control, let God handle. You are tapped into and listening to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Buckeyes their first listen of every single day. Remember to follow and subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes on the Odyssey app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you get your fine podcast. Also, follow and subscribe on YouTube. Just search Locked On Buckeyes. Hit that subscribe button. Also hit that bell so you're notified every single time a new video goes live. One more thing, make sure you hit the like button on every single video. These are all free ways to help the show grow so more people can enjoy Locked On Buckeyes, your place to stay up to date on your Ohio State football and basketball teams every Monday through Friday. Yesterday, when I was talking to Parker Gabriel from the Lincoln Journal-Star, we were talking about the Nebraska football team and talking about things that make them the team that they are. One thing that stuck out to me during our conversation, and one thing that still sticks out to me right now, is that Ohio State should not overlook the Nebraska Cornhuskers. I get you want to overlook teams like an Indiana, or you want to overlook a team like a Purdue, because Purdue's not a good football. They have talent. They're not a good football team. The Indiana Hoosiers, their offense is bad, and their defense it's okay. But when their defense is doing everything for the team to help them be who they are, so be it. We see the Illinois Fighting Illini. Ohio State does not play them this year, but that's a bad football team. The Northwestern Wildcats, that's a bad football team. I mean, there are bad football teams in the Big Ten, and Nebraska's record says Nebraska is a bad football team. For Illinois, for Northwestern, their players are not good. They have some good, not all of them, as a collective unit. Them putting them together, putting them on the field, the quarterbacks aren't good because Northwestern and Illinois, I believe they have played multiple quarterbacks. Their quarterbacks aren't good. They have injuries on the team. There are things that a lot of the players there are not good. That's not the case with Nebraska. Yes, Nebraska is 3-6. Yes, they have lost every single game by one score or less. You look at that, a 3-6 record. Oh, please. Get them out of here. They're atrocious. We should take a trip to Lincoln, beat them by 40, going back to Columbus, and prepare for the Boilermakers. Not so fast, my friend. I believe this Nebraska Cornhusker team, they can be playing a lot of the ways they have the first three quarters. If they found a way to finish one or two of those games, we're looking at this team as being a fringe bowl eligible team. Imagine, of their 6 losses, if they found a way to beat teams, let's look at their schedule very quickly. If they found a way to beat Purdue last week, and if they found a way to beat Minnesota the week before, you're looking at a 5-win team that is right on the edge, right on the cusp of being bowl eligible. They're right there. But we look at Nebraska. Okay, so a lot of us watched the first game of the season, the season opener for college football, and it was not a fun game to watch, where Nebraska lost to Illinois 30-22. And then a lot of us watched the Nebraska-Oklahoma, the 50th year anniversary of the game of the century, which still is a weird name of a game in college football when it's not technically the game of the century. But Nebraska lost that game by 7 points. Okay, great. The next week, you're playing Michigan State. Michigan State was ranked number 20 at that time. A 3-point loss to Sparty. Second half of that game, second half against Oklahoma, you were thinking, okay, Nebraska, you could pull this off. Nebraska, you can fight. Nebraska, you got this. But they don't. For some reason, they have a hard time. They can battle back in the second half, but they have a hard time closing games. Against Michigan, I literally thought they were going to come back and win that game when it was tied 29-29 with about a minute and a half or minute to go. I'm saying, yes, this is it. Yes, this is it. I was rooting for the Cornhuskers really, really bad and anticipating an upset. Didn't happen. The Wolverines kicked a field goal late in that game. The rest is history. Now, the Minnesota game, okay, Nebraska, you played down to your opponent. Okay, for the Purdue game, once again, they played down to their opponent. But what we have seen against Michigan State, against Oklahoma, we have seen this team play up to the level of their opponent. And sometimes when they're playing lesser opponents, they play down to the level of their opponent. I anticipate this being the best game that Adrian Martinez has ever played in his life. Now, Martinez is not a quarterback that consistently makes amazing plays. He does have, I believe that Stroud has one more touchdown over Adrian Martinez on the season. Like their touchdowns are not, it's not like, oh, Stroud has 10 more touchdowns than Adrian Martinez. No, Martinez will hit you on the ground with his legs and through the air with his arm. Martinez is a guy that I do believe gets overlooked by the way that he plays the football. Yes, he makes bad decisions, but he can move the ball. In crucial moments, yes, his decision-making is poor. But when you least expect it, he could skedaddle up the right side, scoot a little bit, and get right there to the end zone. You're like, wait, what happened? Adrian Martinez at times will surprise you with some of the decision-making that he has that he makes. We all look at the bad things he does. We overlook the good things. If you want to go back and look at a stat comparison as far as scoring offense, scoring defense of these teams, these two teams, Ohio State and Nebraska, they're a lot closer than you think. Scoring offense, there's a wide margin there, which is expected. These are all Big Ten rankings. Ohio State, number 1 of the Big Ten in scoring offense. Nebraska, number 4. 29.9 to 47.3 for the Ohio State Buckeyes. The 29.9 is for the Cornhuskers. Scoring defense, Ohio State's number 7 in the Big Ten. Nebraska's number 8. Ohio State 19.3, Nebraska 20.3. Offensive yards per game. Ohio State, number 1 of the Big Ten. Nebraska, number 2. Rushing yards per game, Rushing yards per game. Ohio State's number 5. Nebraska's number 4. Passing yards per game. This is where there's going to be a big gap, and maybe one of the bigger gaps we're going to see in this comparison. Ohio State 346.3, number 1 of the Big Ten. Nebraska's number 5 at 266.7. A lot of this comes from the RPO game. We'll talk about this in the very next segment, to where it's a triple option or the RPO game, which Martinez, because he is a threat running the ball, you have to honor every single aspect of the RPO and every single aspect of the triple option. You may think it could be a triple option. All of a sudden, Martinez pulls that thing back, and I saw him do it against Michigan. It was a read option that turned into a pass. The RPO, it was a quick pass over the middle of the field to a 6'9" number 11 tight end, where he ran the ball. I think it was like 30, 35 yards for a touchdown. The one thing you may see, there's if you look at sacks, Ohio State sack is they're number 1 in the Big Ten in sacks. Nebraska's number 8. You can see some things there that are different. Now, defensively, they're only giving up 137 on the ground, where Ohio State's only giving up 106. Through the air, Nebraska has a better pass defense, 211.2 yards that they're giving up through the air, number 8 in the Big Ten. Ohio State's number 12, 247.1. We all marvel. Now, some of this is from early in the season or even last week when Sean Clifford was doing things when we didn't think he was fully healthy, which I still don't think he was fully healthy last week. When you're playing that zone coverage that Ohio State was playing, it did open up some passing lanes, and Sean Clifford did take advantage of them. There's a good possibility that Martinez, even with his bad decision-making, he could overtake and he could take advantage of the same things this week. I'm curious to see. I want to get to some keys for the game. Curious to see how exactly Martinez, the passing defense, Matt Barnes, Kerry Coombs, I'm interested to see how they attack Nebraska. Will it be a lot of pressure? Will it be man-to-man? Will it be a lot of zone? We know we have seen throughout the season. What will we see tomorrow against Nebraska? Nebraska, you can't overlook them because when you least expect it, they have guys on there that will play in the NFL. When you least expect it, the Cornhuskers can do things. They might do things that will surprise you. And if Ohio State doesn't do these next few things next week or tomorrow, the keys to victory, it could be a long, long game. I don't want to come on here after the game and talk about an Ohio State loss. You are tapped into Locked On Buckeyes here on a Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Once again, I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Buckeyes their first listen of every single day. And this is a part of the show I have been waiting for, looking to dive into more about this game, a few keys to victory, and why I think my prediction and projection for this game tomorrow is the way it is. It all goes into some of the things we're going to talk about before we close up shop. Number 1 key to victory: we're not wasting time. Play your best players all the time. This is one thing that irks me. This is one thing that annoys me. I have heard, and we have seen at times, Matt Jones might be the best guard or one of the better guards on Ohio State's team. He might be number 1 or number 2 offensive guards on Ohio State's teams, but he does not play consistently. I understand you have guys that'll be going to the NFL next year. I understand on the offensive side, you have a very good offensive line. At some point, I say, and the point is now, it should have been said before the season. I thought it was self-explanatory. Play your best players. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, Steele Chambers has to miss the first half of this game because he had the targeting penalty. And due to the rules, you have to miss the first half of the next game. I believe it's the next half, but I know it's the first half of the next game that he played. His targeting penalty came in the second half, beginning of the second half of last week's game. So now Steele Chambers has to miss the first half of this game. I think Steele Chambers should start. I think it should be Steele Chambers and Cody Simon. I know Taraja Mitchell is a captain. I understand he is a senior. I get all of that. Give me Simon, give me Chambers, and just that's it. Roll with them. Now on the back half of the secondary, I expect Larry Johnson to continue to roam and to rotate the guys at the D tackle and defensive ends positions. But in the secondary, play your best guys. Now, I understand you have a guy in Williamson, you have a guy in Lathan Ransom that you want to get on the field. Find a way to get them in the starting lineup and let them play, let them get consistent. Because I do think the rotation on defense is part of the reason why we see holes in the zone that are so wide. Not get a zone, there's going to be gaps in the zone. But sometimes things get so wide and players get out of position because they're not playing consistently. I shouldn't get like this. I know it's Nebraska week. I know you think this is going to be a breeze against Nebraska. You don't want to be rotating because I think that's when Adrian Martinez will take advantage of the things Ohio State has been able to get away with all season long. Outside of one game against Oregon, they have found ways to win while rotating players. Guys, play your best players. Just play them. Play your best guys. The game will be a whole lot easier for you from the beginning to the end. On the triple option in the RPO games, triple option specifically, there will be a fullback read. There'll be a player that's supposed to read the fullback and stick on him. There'll be a player that's supposed to be with the quarterback, stick on him. There'll be a guy who has the responsibility of the pitch man, stick on him. One of the trickiest things with the triple option defending it is you want to get your read and half of another read. Just being honest with you. So the man that has the fullback or the handoff man, you want to, or the first read there, you want to be able to get him as well as a quarterback. You want to be a hero. You want to be a guy that gets all the attention. No. Stick on your man. Stay with your read. That simple. You will see tomorrow in this game, specifically with the triple option, you will find that there will be times that Martinez and the guys in the backfield will skedaddle up the sideline, either the right or the left. Why? Because of the first read. Now, sometimes the second and third read, the quarterback man or the pitch man, sometimes those are the things. But a lot of times, once you get that first read, and once the first read is through, and you think, "Oh, we're going to have two guys go down on the fullback," and then all of a sudden Martinez goes around, it's because people are biting on the first read and not sticking through read 1, read 2, and read 3. Stick with your man. Go through your man. Stick with them. You want to know why? Because once you stick with your man, Ohio State's team speed on defense is so quick and so good, so fast. You stick with your man, read 1, read 2, read 3, fullback, quarterback, pitch man. Once you stick with them, this game will be a whole lot easier for you. Another one. I got two more for you. Well, at least one more. Two more. Spy Adrian Martinez. And I am predicting that Ronnie Hickman will be the man that spies Adrian Martinez. Yes, I know that takes him out of the passing game. Yes, I know that keeps him, that he will not be so much back of the back. He'll be more right there in the box more of the time. I would say originally I would keep it Still Chambers, but with Still Chambers not being there, I'm not sure if you want Cody Simon. Cody Simon will be somebody as well. It all depends on, do they want to keep Hickman in the back and they want to run the two high safety look, or do they want to have Hickman be the roamer? I think having Hickman spy, which would be ideal, would be great. If not, I would go Chambers, but he's out the first half, and then I would go Simon. Somebody spy Adrian Martinez the entire night. With a guy that is elusive, that's a dual threat like he is, you want to always keep a spy on him at all times. The moments that you don't, you drop back into a zone, there's a 4-man rush, there's about a 5 to 8 yard gap, maybe 10-yard gap between him and the closest defender. Next thing you know, he makes one man miss and he's gone for a 20-yard gain. Spy Martinez the entire game. Last but not least, identify JoJo Domann, number 13, and Luke Reamer, number 28, the entire game on every single play. JoJo Domann is number 13. He's an outside linebacker. There are times he will walk up on the line, on the outside of the line, and be a walked-up linebacker to make a 5-man or a 6-man front. 6-man, because the opposite outside linebacker will occasionally walk up on the line as well. Reamer is a leading tackler. JoJo Domann is a guy that will be all over the field making plays. Identify both of those players on every single play. Projection. I know we don't bring up betting spreads on this show at every single week, but we're going to right now. I believe the spread right now is Ohio State. It's a 15-point favorite. Also, keep in mind that Nebraska has lost every game by one score or by one score, 8 points or less. I believe that Ohio State wins this game, but they don't cover the spread, but they give Nebraska their biggest loss of the year. Yes, they could win by 2 scores. A big score could win by 14 points. I believe it'll be a 10-4. I believe it'll be a 14-point win. I almost wanted to say 10, but I do believe that this Ohio State offense will start figuring things out on the ground. I do think that Nebraska will cause some fits at times for Ohio State, but I do think Ohio State wins, gives Nebraska the biggest margin of defeat, biggest loss of the season, but Ohio State does not cover the spread. That's at this point right now. The spread may change between now and the time that the game kicks off. Guys, I'm ready for this game. I have been looking forward to it for quite a while. Tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern, Fox, Big Fox, Gus Johnson, Joe Klatt, and Jenny Taft on the call. I can't wait. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jsteven07. You can also follow the podcast on YouTube. On YouTube, just search Locked On Buckeyes. If you want to send an email to me, jstevens317 at gmail.com. In the meantime, make sure you check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. As you make Locked On Buckeyes your first listen of every single day, go ahead and make Locked On Big Ten your second listen of the day. I will be on that podcast with Nate Dickinson on Monday, recapping the weekend that was in the Big Ten Football Conference. This is Jay Stevens. We are out closing up shop here on Locked On Buckeyes. Enjoy tomorrow's game.